I want you to just imagine something for a second. You're looking at a shipwreck. It's Roman, about 2,000 years old, sitting off the coast of Greece. And inside, you find what is, well, basically the equivalent of a highly intricate mechanical calculator.
It shouldn't be there.
It shouldn't. That's what archaeologists found in 1901 with the Antikythera Mechanism. It was, and really still is, an impossible artifact. So our mission today is a deep dive into ancient astronomy. We're going to move way past the idea that our ancestors were just, watching the stars.
There was so many more than that. There were scientists, engineers.
Exactly. We're going to explore 3 ways they really track the cosmos. Intricate physical machines, detailed celestial maps, and massive codified texts. Okay, so let's unpack this with the mechanism. It dates to the 2nd century BC, the Hellenistic period.
And it's the oldest known analog computer, full stop.
What's so revolutionary, I think, is that machines with that kind of mechanical complexity just don't show up again in Europe until the 14th century.
A huge gap. It suggests a massive loss of technological know-how. But it's fascinating to ask what this machine was actually for.
Right.
It was a prediction engine. Its whole function was to forecast things.
Like what?
Astronomical positions, for sure, but also solar and lunar eclipses. It even tracked the 4-year cycle for things like the ancient Olympic Games.
How did it predict eclipses?
It used these amazing dials for what are called the Saros and Exeligmos cycles.
Yeah.
They're just very long periods over which eclipse patterns repeat in a predictable way.
Okay, but here's the part that really gets me.
Mm-hmm.
The mechanism didn't just model simple circles, it modeled the moon's irregular, elliptical orbit. They knew the moon speeds up and slows down.
Yeah, and they knew that before they really understood the physics of why. The question is, how do you model that kind of non-uniform motion in metal? They did it with this incredibly sophisticated mechanic called pin and slot epicyclic gearing.
Okay, break that down.
Think of it like a gear riding on another gear, but one is slightly off-center. So as it turns, it creates this faster than slower kind of irregular movement. It was a mechanical way to model the math of a non-uniform orbit, a total breakthrough.
It's just an intellectual muscle to get your head around that kind of complexity, especially 2 millennia ago, is astounding.
It really is.
And, speaking of tackling complex challenges, this is probably a good time to mention our sponsor. If you're wrestling with modern complexity, maybe you need help with AI training, automation, or software development, our sponsor, Embersilk, can help. They specialize in uncovering where AI agents could make the most impact for your business. So check out embersilk.com for your AI needs.
So if we move from those incredibly complex gears to data recorded on surfaces, let's talk about charts.
Maps of the sky.
Exactly. Take the Tendere Zodiac. It's a famous bas-relief from an Egyptian temple dating to about 50 BC.
And it's a circle, which is really unique for Egyptian art, right?
Totally unique. But it's the precision that's key.
And that precision is why it's so important. Scholars could actually date it so accurately because it shows 2 specific eclipses.
A solar eclipse from March 51 BC.
And a lunar one from September of 52 BC. So it's like a snapshot, a permanent monumental record.
Yes, a fixed archival calendar. Now, contrast that with something like the Skiri Pawnee star chart.
Yeah, this one is different.
Very different. It's unique among indigenous North American works. It's not just a map for plotting angles.
It's made of elk hide.
Right. It's a mnemonic device, a tool for memory. The meaning wasn't just in the patterns, but in the rituals tied to it. It helped people, and this is a great quote, live under a sky that was alive with meaning.
That's a vital distinction. It's the engineering of the sky versus, I guess, living the sky.
The perfect way to put it.
Okay, so that brings us to the third method, the texts.
And for that, we have to talk about the Babylonians. Their astronomical compendium, known as MUAPN, was written before the 8th century BC, and it codified a vast amount of systematic mathematical knowledge about the stars.
Codified is the key word there, isn't it?
It is.
It lists stars across 3 celestial paths, Enlil, Anu, and Ea, and has these detailed schemes for the length of day and night. But you mentioned it had rules for intercalation. For those of us unfamiliar, what does that mean?
It's just the practice of adding a leap month every few years. It keeps the lunar calendar lined up with the solar year and the seasons.
So your festivals don't drift into the wrong season?
Exactly. And the fact they had mathematical rules for it shows how systematic their approach was. It was foundational for all later astronomy.
So putting it all together, what does this all mean? Ancient astronomers from the Mediterranean to North America, they weren't just looking up.
Not at all.
They were engineering analog computers, crafting these incredibly detailed maps for both precision and ritual, and building huge knowledge compendiums. They were really pushing the limits.
Which brings up a really fascinating final point.
Mhm.
We know the Antikythera Mechanism showed theoretical genius, right? Model in elliptical orbits.
Yeah.
But in practice, its hand-built triangular gears meant it actually struggled with inaccuracies. It wasn't perfect. So it raises this question. What happens when theoretical genius gets way ahead of the physical manufacturing reality, whether you're talking about an ancient machine or some bleeding-edge technology today?
That is a powerful point to think about. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please subscribe to the show. Hey, and leave us a 5-star review if you can. It really does help get the word out. Thanks for tuning in.